in America. I'm the other side of the story for Asia, or at least confident, at least smart person in my family. And I didn't have a choice, as Tracy had many choices. And so we all Asian companies. Let me ask you, how many people work for a company or for government? You raise your hands. You're an employee, basically. About half. Yeah. How many own your own business, large or small? Yeah, the lawyer, you know. Okay. Yeah, great. I see your faces. Looking back myself, back 30, 40 years ago, when I first came to America, tried to survive as an engineer. I didn't have a choice, by the way. And as many of you now have many choices. It's great. Choices. And I was came to America in 2018, didn't speak English or had money or had relatives, and just like most of us spent those years working in the restaurant, cut grass, you know, all that garbage stuff. We do many years of Borough College. Didn't have a choice, so we find a job. Go to school, so we find a school where we can find a job. So I become a structural engineer, worked 18 years in the backdoor floor corporations. Later, 10 years later, as Tracy mentioned, you become good. Whatever you do, you know, right? Like all Asians, we're hardworking people, very dedicated to work ethics, and are very quiet. And so, after 10 years, you find America is a great country. It has a lot of opportunities. You can do, you look left or right, up and down, you know. But something happens. Everybody passes to me going up. I was still engineer for 10 years. So I started to, like Tracy said, start sell myself, learn how to, well, I'm fortunate that I didn't learn how to do that, end up with a lot of trouble, you know. And for instance, in America, I like to talk about the sports, do a lot of drinks. I get drunk all the time because I can't resist. I get drunk easily, so I try to learn how to drink. American drink, you know, drink with empty stomach, and we Asians now do, you know, we can drink with a full stomach.
Did you turn red?
Not turn red, you pass out. Well, so the guy said, no, this guy really is not American. You don't pass out, you know, like Asians do. And then, of course, I try to learn about sports, names. We work so hard, you have a time watching any TV. To this day, I still don't watch TV. Bill put a lot of TVs out for McDonald's. I paid a lot of money for TV. I never watched them. But the problem is that I didn't have time to watch, so I can't make conversation to sell myself. So I was passed all the time. I wanted to be a chief engineer so bad, you know. And my father always told me I was dumbest guy in my nine brothers and sisters. He wished me just be a good engineer, and if I can be a chief engineer now, he will be really happy. So I tried so hard, I never made it. So, but before I knew, I was laid off.
So it was lack of social prowess in your case. How about you, Bill?
Oh my God. Well, I was a pariah in the family because, you know, I come from a family of doctors, pharmacists, and engineers, and I did not want to be a pharmacist. I did not want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be a CPA, no way. or an engineer, so I actually went into the advertising industry, and sadly, and I wish there were more of you in the audience that would consider advertising or PR or marketing, I decided to go into advertising, so I actually went to a very large ad agency, and unfortunately I was the only Asian American in this very large international ad agency. The only other person of color was a Latino, and he worked in the mailroom. The sad thing is, whenever the company needed to show off their multicultural team, I got moved from my very tiny cubicle.
Yeah, they marched you out there for cosmetic purposes.
They put me in a very nice cubicle, and then the Latino also got promoted and sat next to me, and then the clients were always kept about 100 feet away. And every time they would parade the clients by, they would say, "Oh, this is our multicultural team. Bill represents Asia, and Jose represents Latin Americans." But I think, you know, for me, you know, I never saw any Asian Americans break through the glass ceiling or the bamboo ceiling in advertising. Every time an Asian made it, they would leave because there really were no safety nets. But I think the way that I got around it is I actually embarrassed my boss. And unfortunately, it had to come to that because the boss one day was told by the client, we want to meet Bill. And the clients were always kept far away from us, and all of a sudden the client comes up to me, and the client says, hey Bill, I understand you are an expert on the Far East and that you're from the Far East. What part of the Far East are you from? And I said, Eastern Oregon. I think sometimes, you know, not only do you have to be confident, like what Tracy said, and you have to get drunk and puke every so often, like CC said, you've got to be willing to, you know, stand up for yourself and be confident in what you did. So ultimately, I started my own company.
And Fak, what barriers did you hit?
Well, the basic thing is that, you know, I think the barriers is mostly in our heads also. And I had multiple barriers, I would say. When I was studying in France, basically everything was simple, you know. You know what's important, you have to study hard, get your finals, and work. That was simple. And then my first job as an individual contributor or small team leader, you are judged by the success of your outcome or the outcome of your team, and that's fine. When you start hitting a barrier, and I got that, I was hired by a CEO. I met the CEO directly in a company, French, of 200 or 300 people, and he asked me to start a software engineering department from scratch. So I built it to, you know, from 2 people to 30 people, and I was really happy. I was close to the president, was his CEO, and he was just acting VP of engineering. So I felt like, hey, normally I should be able to get promoted and get it, right? Well, in 2 occasions there was an opening, but I was not chosen. So I did a lot of soul searching. The CEO was my mentor, actually. So we talked, and it was hard for me to understand initially, but then I think I understood the secret, which was basically, as long as you succeed from what you do, or your team is doing, is something you can control. You know, with your Asian background, focusing on doing the right job, being very good at it. But where it can become difficult is when you work with your peers, and you need to have, you know, work with your peers and make them successful. Basically, think beyond your own box, beyond your own responsibility. Work with them, communicate, and there's also, the third thing would be the sense of leadership. Leadership is something very hard to understand. I think we think that leadership is that if you are from a military environment, you know you are the head of a company, or you have responsible people, they will follow you. Managers manage things, but leaders lead people. And for people to follow you, you really have to win the hearts and minds. And that means communicating, talking beyond job, understanding the problem that others have, you know, seen from their perspective as opposed to your own perspective. So that is something I learned, you know, later when I was actually promoted to move to the US from France for a 2-year mission. And after the 2-year mission, I didn't want to go back to France, and that's when I joined Apple. And I stayed at Apple a long time, and that's when, in the environment at Apple where it's very egalitarian, everybody is, you know, same way. I had a big team, 80 people, but they wouldn't take things from me unless they respect what I say. So it was really eye-opening situation, and working with the peers was the hardest thing, because we're not used to, you know, to communicate at the level where you know, you can help your peer, you know, succeed, as opposed to just seeing your own world, and have to fight that.
Seems like everybody here struggles with playing the game, the corporate game. As Asian Americans, we're brought up in our households to be humble, to be modest, work hard, don't burden people with your problems. In our culture, or in America, the squeaky wheel gets fixed first. I think in Asian culture, the loudest duck gets shot. So I myself struggle with the 2 of me. It's hard for me to walk into the boss's office and say, you know, I want that promotion. It's just, it's in my DNA not to do that. It's hard for me to do that. So I struggle with the 2 of me. I don't know if you can connect with that, but I think a lot of Asian people do, and a lot of people in general do. It's hard to do. So really, how do you do that in a graceful way?